This episode of the podcast is brought to you by 88 Frames Media. From website development, podcast creation and editing, videography, and more, 88 Frames Media has you covered. Visit 88 Frames Media for more information. That's 88framesmedia.com. We're not.
We are.
Are you serious?
Merry Sithmas?
Merry Sithmas.
Oh, yeah.
Dude.
That's hilarious.
We couldn't have planned that.
Absolutely not. I didn't even have this until yesterday.
I didn't have it till this morning.
That's hilarious.
And we're the two best friends that anyone can have.
Oh, my
Amazing.
goodness.
It's like a Christmas miracle.
That is ridiculous that just happened.
Well, there's your opening.
Well, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Merry Christmas, and welcome to the Sanctum Sanctorum podcast, where comics and Christ culture collide. I'm Chris.
I'm Joey, and we've got the same sweater on.
And we absolutely have the same sweater on. Unplanned, mind you.
Totally unplanned. As you saw in the intro, all we did was log on.
A few days ago, all we did was say, hey, we should wear like Christmas sweaters or Christmas hats or something for for our Christmas episode. And we're like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. We didn't talk about it again. We go to record and we're twinning.
Boom. Twinning it up. Merry Christmas, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're unfamiliar, on this show, we take comic book movies and Christ culture, see where they collide. We review the good, the bad, and the spiritual content in these films. Chris, are you excited for Christmas?
I love Christmas. Halloween and Christmas are my two favorite times of the year, and Christmas definitely edges out a little bit. You know, Christmas music all year round. I have a son who's doing stuff this Christmas, and so, getting to buy him gifts and seeing his reaction, all that stuff is so much fun. What about you? How's Christmas at the Monteleone house?
It's loud, as is everything. Doesn't matter the holiday, it's always loud. But we got our tree, we got our decorations going, we've got the vinyl playing, all the classics. You got Nat King Cole, and the kids love Pentatonics, which after a while it just gets a little much, just with how loud they are, and then just hearing pop, 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 pop all the time. It's like, okay, we need a break. Check this out. This is called instrumental music. This is an organ.
All right, I mean, to be honest, I think I would take the Pentatonics Christmas album over Miss Rachel's Christmas album.
I don't even know who that is.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, maybe your kids were a little older during COVID. Miss Rachel's like this current child generation's Mr. Rogers.
The digital babysitter.
Yes, pretty much.
Yes.
Yes, that is her.
That's amazing. We're going to dive into our movie today, which is 2019's...
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Oh, no, sorry.
You're going to transform if you say it.
I'll hold on to that.
My goodness, you got to be ready to be an adult.
Which I am not. Before we dive into the movie, we got a culture comic moment. Today we are talking about our most beloved superhero, particularly at this time of the year, which is Santa. Santa is both in the Marvel and DC universes as a character. Mm-hmm. He brings that supernatural and fantastical fantasy element to our universes. But it sort of got me thinking, and I'd love your perspective on this, Chris. You know, these characters embody elements of Santa. These characters that we love share a lot of the similarities with the character and the persona of Santa Claus. What are some of those characteristics, and why do you think that we gravitate towards them?
Well, I will address the second question first, because I think that the reason we gravitate towards them is for many of the reasons that we that we gravitate towards superheroes in general. You know, it's this ultimate goodness. It's a bright spot for the most part in, you know, a world of evil. It's, you know, you look at superheroes as people that can never let you down. You know, even though the characters have developed and have become more human over the years, it used to be very cut and dry, good versus evil, moral versus immoral, you know. So, and I think that the characters that do that for us are, you know, Santa Claus is like the ultimate goodness, right? You know,
Mm.
he has a nice list. He brings gifts to those who, you know, do the right things. He rewards you. He's kind and gentle and jolly. You know, what's not to admire about someone that's always kind, good, and fun, you know?
And fat. So fat.
So, well, yeah, just a big man. That's a lot of Santa.
Just a big dude. The reason I bring it up is like, you know, there are certain characters that embody elements of these traits that we find within Santa Claus. You know, Superman sort of inspires hope within us.
Hmm.
Spider-Man sort of has that anonymous secret help that is like, I'm going to help you, but I'm not going to necessarily take the credit for it. It's unthanked, it's unseen. Batman is kind of that silent savior aspect. And it really got me thinking, like, those are the types of things that I pour into the character of Santa Claus at this time of the year. But actually, these characters help carry that ideal all year round.
Hmm.
And it was really sort of this special moment to be like, oh, that's why it's amplified right now for me, because I put it into this one character, but I don't realize that these characters are keeping me going with that hope, that inspiration, that joy, and that support all year round.
You know, it's interesting because, you know, you named a couple of characters, and it's almost like the movie we're reviewing today. If you,
Don't say it.
I'm not saying it, but if you spell those letters out, you know, the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina
Are
of
you kidding me?
Achilles. It's no,
I just realized that's what it
but
is.
we look at, oh yeah.
I'm an idiot.
But we, you mentioned, you know, Superman brings hope. Batman is a silent savior. Spider-Man is the anonymous bringer of, you know, kind of joy. Um, these are all in.
ASS.
These are
It's perfect.
these are all the um, aspects of Santa that we admire,
Yeah.
and they're just separated, but they all come together in one person around, you know, this holiday, and that's, you know, one of the reasons that this might be getting a little off topic, but one of the I listen to Christmas music all year round
Because you're a psychopath.
because it brings me joy, and we need a little more joy in the world today. And I feel like, you know, when you
Maybe 5%.
kind of, you know, get on somebody's back, as many have done to me about listening to it all year round, I feel like, one, from a follower of Christ's point of view, I like to celebrate the birth of our Lord all year round, not just once a year. But
Just pulled the
also,
Jesus card.
you know, that music, you know, connects you to a time of year that inspires so much hope, so much faith, so much joy, so much, you know, bringing people together, kindness and goodness. And so it's like,
You know, Chris, anything could be a Christmas song. You just have to want it bad enough.
you don't even have to want it. If you just take, you know, those handlebar jingle bells and just kind of put those on beat,
Yep.
then it's a Christmas song.
The Beach Boys did it.
Yeah, just rewrite one of your hits and make it, you know, snowy and Christmassy, and we're done.
Yeah. But what do you guys think? Do you think Santa is the ultimate superhero? Do you think that the characters embody elements that we pour into Santa all throughout the year? Leave us a comment on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube and let us know what you think. Thank you so much for doing that. We've been loving the comments that we've been getting, and we
Yes.
love interacting with you. You guys are what makes this community awesome, and it's what makes this show so great. So thank you. Leave a comment, and we'll respond to you.
Absolutely. And also, I just want to say that in the Marvel universe, at least, Santa Claus is the most powerful mutant in the world. So,
Hail Hydra.
no. This is not the
No.
time of year for that nonsense.
It could be. It could be. But today we are reviewing 2019's DCEU. Oh, look, we finally found a hit from our dark universe.
Shazam!
Shazam! We are covering it, and I got a plot synopsis that'll kick yo face.
All right, let's hear it. Do it.
Here we go. Maybe not foreboding music, maybe Christmas music.
Yeah, something light and airy.
Light and airy. In a world where we all have a superhero hidden inside of us, because apparently that's a thing, we meet 14-year-old Billy Batson, an orphaned youth whose good heart towards a handicapped kid, and literally no other reason, grants him the power from a wizard. All he needs to do is unleash his inner hero and shout one magic word, and voila! He transforms into the adult superhero, Shazam! But there's an evil villain, Dr. Sivana, who apparently is itching to unleash the 7 deadly sins. Billy has to figure out how to be a hero, either before the sins of the gods destroy the world, or puberty hits. Whichever comes first in 2019's Shazam! Dun, dun, dun!
All right, not bad. Not bad.
It could have been better.
It could have been better, but also you make a good point. We really don't see too much of Billy's goodness except when he helps Freddy with the bullies.
Which is something I have to say. Before we get into any good, before we get into any bad, it's literally the only thing that sets him apart.
But he also only does it once, because then later in the movie,
He does it once!
Later in the movie, he lets him down. He uses his powers for selfish reasons some of the time. Yep. You know, it just is weird.
It's a plot device.
He's a bully to his foster family. You know, he steals the cop car and the lunch and all this.
He steals the bat bullet.
Yeah,
or
right.
the batarang.
Not only steals the thing, but was going to sell it, and it just there's a lot of issues with making Billy Batson the hero of our story.
So remember, kids, as long as you stick up for handicapped kids getting beat up, you too can have the power of Shazam.
That's true.
That's true. Chris, there's some really great stuff in this movie. I'd love for you to kick it off.
There is, and it stars Zachary Levi, Mark Strong, Asher Angel, Jack Dylan Grazer, and Digimon Hansu, and it was directed by David F. Sandberg, who is mostly known for doing a short film and then a full-length version of it called Lights Out, which is a horror movie. And a little tidbit is the social worker at the beginning of the movie who places Billy with the new family is the same social worker from Lights Out. So,
oh, no way.
It's a connected universe.
A shared universe, because we've never done that before.
Love that. Love those little connection things. Those are always fun.
Yeah, man.
So I got some good things here. I don't have a ton of specifically good because I have some other things that I want to talk about. But the number one thing, this is big with superheroes.
Yeah.
Right? Is the 80s movie Big with Tom Hanks. It's basically that with superheroes. A kid trapped in an adult's body and doing stuff. And they even have the piano scene in the toy store.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
And it works.
It worked. All right, so
I still can't get over that we're matching.
I know, it's ridiculous. So Shazam is a really good time. It's a lot of fun in a very dark universe.
Yeah.
This was, the 7th or 8th entry point in the DCEU, and we had Man of Steel, very dark, Batman v Superman, very dark, Wonder Woman, not as dark, but still kind of a grayscale on it. This was bright and colorful and just fun and funny. They did a really good job with that.
I'm not comparing it to this movie. I'm comparing it to what this movie did. This is the DCEU's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, sure.
Which is, it's light, it's fun, it doesn't take itself seriously, it's warm, it's charming, it's comfortable, it's genuine, it's all of that. It's that moment for the DCEU.
It also kind of sets apart because up until this point, they were trying to connect everything, kind of the same in the Marvel universe. Everything was being interconnected. Guardians, if they had never made another Guardians movie and never had moved them into, working with Thor or the Avengers, it would have been a nice little pocket universe of a movie. Now, this has a
Sure.
couple of references to other superheroes, obviously, but I think those are, you can look past those, and this can completely stand on its own.
Yeah, that's just for establishment.
Yeah,
That says, okay, this is where we are, but it's not like you don't need that to understand
no,
this.
not at all. Not at all. And speaking of the establishment, I love, Freddy's, super knowledge of superheroes and the whole what
Yeah,
powers do I have montage.
that was cool.
It's just a good time. It's just a really good time. Um, and Freddy is my hero. I think Freddy is amazing. The design of this movie, especially the Rock of Eternity, which is the layer
Mm,
of Shazam and the Wizard, is awesome. It is right out of the comics for me. The same with the suit. Um, no, I'm going to save that for my bad. But the suit does look really cool. The suit looks really
okay.
cool, and I do like that. It's a big focus on family and on positivity. As
Yes,
opposed to him being a hero that struggles with, what do I do with these powers? He pretty quickly realizes the right things to do. And even though he has some selfish things, I mean, this is a kid that grew up without a family, grew up poor, grew up in the system. So it makes sense to me that the first thing he's going to think of is like, how do I use this to my advantage? But he pretty quickly does the right thing. Right in
exactly.
the convenience store, he does the right thing almost immediately. So,
Yeah, I mean, you pointed it out. This entire film is about family.
mhm.
It is so singular, and I absolutely adore that. The entire length of the movie, the entire time you're sitting in it, you're like, okay, it's coming back to family. Okay, this is pushing the family point. Okay, this is what family does. This is what happens when you don't have a strong family. Like all of it was so focused, and I loved that.
And Victor, I mean, come on, Victor is dad of the year. You
Totally.
kidding me with that? I love that guy, and I love that actor. He's the only other thing I really know him from is he's one of my favorite characters in The Walking Dead, and he's great in that too.
That's where he's from.
He's just like this big teddy bear of a guy, and
Yep.
he's great. The high school is called Fawcett High School. Now, when Shazam originally called Captain Marvel, but because of that character being a part of Marvel and Marvel becoming the name of the other comic
The other
studio, they
empire.
ended up having to change it to Shazam. But originally he was done with Fawcett Comics, and then when DC bought the rights to Shazam, they made his hometown Fawcett City. Now they set the movie in
Mm.
Philadelphia, but I like that.
Which I love. I absolutely love that it's in Philly.
But I like that they, yeah, because it would have been so easy to set it in New York. Yeah, that's just
Well,
easy.
not only New York, but it's not Gotham, it's not Metropolis, it's Philly.
And it's right. It's a real world establishment, which is why I like that they just called the
Exactly.
high school Fawcett High School.
Yeah.
So you put it in there, but he didn't live in Fawcett City, so that was nice. Um, at the I love Santa in this too. Speaking of Santa earlier, very funny, very good comic relief. Later on, you see Adam Brody towards the end of the movie, who plays the adult Shazammed version of Freddy, and he's great, and also looks a lot like the actor playing
It looks
Freddy.
just like him.
But
Yeah,
what I also think is very nice is it was a little opportunity for Adam Brody to get to play a superhero. If I don't know, who may know this, but before the current incarnation of the Justice League we have on film, there was probably 20 years ago now a proposed Justice League movie, and Adam Brody was supposed to be the one that brings everyone together as the Flash.
no way.
And I always thought, like, man, if they were going to get an actor to play the Flash, like Adam Brody would be perfect for that. Now, obviously,
Totally.
time went by, and he started getting too old to play a young Flash. But
Sure.
I always thought that he got kind of gypped on getting to play a superhero, so it was nice to give him a little bit of something there.
Mm-hmm.
The big evil guy speech when when they're both in the air, and
Yep.
Savano is giving his speech of what I can you're like a mile away, man. I cannot hear anything. Forget it, and then just fight. To me, it was kind of like the I know you didn't like it, but it was kind of like that scene in Captain Marvel where they took a trope but kind of subverted it,
Yep.
and I like that. I think
It was
I
good.
think that's fun. It's easy to lead into that stuff.
They did it well.
Um, there were also shades of Spider-Man with Shazam. It was a kid who becomes a superhero. You see him make some selfish decisions, but ultimately he knows the right thing to do, and then goes full force into doing the right thing. So, there was a little bit
Mm-hmm.
of comparison there, for me. And our end credits scene was great. I think that was a lot of fun. Superman
It was
showing up to
fun.
lunch. The only question
Did
I
he show up?
the only question I have about that is, how did, I guess they don't tell you how much time has passed, but how did, like, he become friends enough with Superman to be like, can you come eat lunch with my little brother at this random high school?
Yeah. In the same way that Superman shows up at the end of Black Adam. It's like, all right, well, we gotta make sure people keep coming back because they love this
But I
character.
feel I feel like that's only different because Black Adam is like a threat, whereas Shazam isn't a threat. He's unless I guess I mean it seems more like a Batman thing to keep tabs on superpowered beings that are showing up out of nowhere more than Superman.
A little bit, but I feel like you sort of just nailed it on the head. It was a threat. It's not a threat within the cinematic universe. It's a threat to the financial stability of the industry. Is this going to actually work out? And if people don't like it, is there enough of a connection to something you do love so that you keep coming back?
Yeah.
And I feel like DC does this a lot. Whereas Marvel's like, hey, we threw a character in here that will set up something that we're already doing, whereas DC throws the cameo in there to make sure that you keep coming
Yeah.
back. It wasn't terrible where I was like, oh, that's stupid. It's not stupid, but like you sort of see through it now watching it in hindsight.
My last thing that I have is not really a good or bad. It's more of an other, but I was so like emotionally wrecked by the beginning of this movie when young Billy gets lost at the carnival, and he's sitting with the police, and they're like, we can't find your mom, we'll do the best we can, here's a blanket. And then later when you see what happened, and mom found him and just like abandoned him because she wasn't ready to be a mom and
Yeah.
she thought he'd be better off or whatever, like I almost had to turn it off and be like, all right, I got to come back to this, because like the idea of being a newer dad, the idea of doing that is just such a concept that it doesn't even exist in my mind to do something like that. So it was heart wrenching to watch that happen to that poor kid. So
Yeah.
that was hard to watch, but it like made me appreciate being a dad more.
They did it well.
They did it well. It wasn't too heavy-handed, but it I mean it did the job it was supposed to. It pulled at my heartstrings.
Yeah.
So, what do you got for the good?
You took half of what I have written,
You're
which is
welcome.
good. We're on the same page there. A couple things that are different from yours. I think it's a great premise that you need to contain the deadly
Mm,
sins. I haven't seen that before, particularly in a comic book, and I thought that was done very well. I don't know if that's comic accurate for Shazam, but not having seen the movie before, this was my first time ever seeing it, and not being familiar with the character in its origin, I thought it was, wow, that's unique enough, and this looks really cool. That's another thing I have. The design of those sin creatures is they're all somewhat unique, but they're all somewhat
hmm
consistent. And I thought that it was developed, like the idea of it, the execution of it was really, really well handled.
Yes, and I agree with the. It would have been very easy to make gluttony a big fat blobby monster, and make lust a
Yeah.
sexy looking monster, and make pride a very vain looking monster. But they just all kind of looked like monsters, and they had tiny little characteristics of what sin they were supposed to represent.
Right, like the greed aspect of having 4 arms instead of 2. That was
Yeah,
genius.
and that's all you need. It's like, oh, I get that. I see that. Even saying, at the end when he says, who is it? Envy was the one that Savano kept inside of him, and him, challenging him of like, oh, he's just a runt. Like he's the one the other sins don't want to let out to play because he's just this tiny little nothing guy. Is like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That like Envy would be the smallest because he wants to be he wants what everybody else has. So yeah, that was really brilliant design choices.
It's just smart. I like. So there's this whole scene and there's this whole moment where Sivana is interviewing people trying to get back to the temple court so that he can then get the power and get the 7 deadly sins and all of that. I love how when they were interviewing the people, they made that feel like an alien abduction. They made it feel like they were interviewing just the crazy people, but they all had somewhat consistent stories, consistent experiences. One of my other hobbies aside from comic books is just listening to UFO abductions and the supernatural when it comes to some of this stuff. So it sounded a lot like those types of interviews where you don't really take them seriously, but they're all lining up as far as consistency. I liked how they did
all
that.
Pretty interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
2 more things that I had. I loved how balanced it was and how consistent of a tone it was. I never busted out laughing, but I was constantly on the edge of my heart. Like it was just an uplifting. It was fun and it was funny without being overdone. Like it was
joyful.
It was joyful. Yeah. There was never, I mean, even in the low moments, you felt something when you came down, but then you were brought right back up. I loved that. And the last thing, Chris, it's not a Christmas movie. It's a superhero movie that happens at Christmas.
It's a Christmas movie.
It's not a Christmas movie.
It's a Christmas movie. Okay, so I was arguing with a friend of mine on Facebook over Batman Returns being a Christmas movie or not. One of the things he said is Christmas or the spirit of Christmas has to be integral to the plot.
Yes.
In order for it to count as a Christmas movie.
This is not.
Fair enough. But the whole message of this movie is family, the joy he finds with these new superpowers,
Homeward
finding
Bound.
family, figuring out who he is, what he believes in, all these things. These are all themes that Christmas is about. So I feel like I would even say that this is more of a Christmas movie by those standards. This is more of a Christmas movie than Batman Returns is.
Oh, I'd agree with that. But it's still not a Christmas movie because everything you just said also applies to The Parent Trap.
But that's not set at Christmas. If that was set at Christmas, that would be different. It does because if it's set at Christmas and has these overarching themes that you would usually associate with the holiday season, that, the movie doesn't have to be about him saving Christmas to be a Christmas movie.
Oh, yes, it does.
It absolutely does not, and you're wrong.
That's the end of my good. We're going to take a break after a word from our sponsor, and then we'll be back with some bad stuff.
All right, sounds good.
Today's episode is brought to you by Shazam's Lightning in a Bottle. Tired of feeling powerless in a world full of superheroes? Crack open a bottle of Shazam's Lightning and harness the power of the gods. Perfect for charging your phone, jump-starting your car, or frying your enemies. Chicken. Available in kid-friendly sizes, too, just in case your foster family needs a little spark at dinner. Shazam's Lightning in a Bottle, available wherever bottles are sold. Must be 18 or older for purchase. Side effects include uncontrollable yelling of Shazam in public places and possibly turning into a superhero. Not responsible for random wizard encounters. Order to get your free 7 Deadly Sins stress ball set today. Terms and conditions apply. Power of the gods not guaranteed in all regions.
Wow. Wow.
Woo.
I don't even know what to say to that one.
I think we have a side career in advertising.
Fake ad marketing.
Fake ad marketing.
I like it.
Thanks for sponsoring this episode, Shazam's Lightning in a Bottle. And as always,
Once again,
not
not
a
a
real
real
product. I got some bad stuff with this movie. I'll kick it off because I actually don't have a lot.
Do it. I have more than I thought I would, but go for it.
We sort of touched on this already, but like the fact that a bully hit a handicapped kid with his car. I get that it gets you into the action scene, but it would never happen.
That is
I don't care what kind of jerk you are. You're not hitting a
crazy.
handicapped kid with a car.
And to be honest, immediately I
Yeah.
would be going to, even if that did happen, immediately, even if Freddie didn't want to do it because he doesn't want to seem like more of a victim or whatever, none of the other siblings are immediately being like, let me go get the principal, let me go get the security guard because you just hit him with a gun. That's assault.
And you know how you've been in high school and, you know, the classic bully just hits a disabled kid with his car and then punches him in the stomach a couple times.
This has got to be a new generation thing because I remember, getting pushed into lockers and less so getting hit by, vehicles.
Yeah.
So
And,
that's a little.
and like we touched on, the fact that Billy's selection to be Shazam is just because he didn't publicly let bullies beat up a handicapped kid, while a large group of people are just standing around and literally watching. It just seems lazy to me.
Yeah. And that's the sole thing that like when Savano as a kid first goes to the Rock of Eternity and meets the wizard and the wizard presents, I once gave these powers to a man who did something terrible. That was Black Adam.
Yeah.
Nobody since Black Adam, like over 1,000 years ago, and then even from Savano, from a kid to adult, that's what, like 40 years maybe has gone by. Nobody has been a good person
No.
that whole time until some street smart kid who, again, stops a bully once and hesitates. He doesn't even immediately jump in. He hesitates, and it's actually not until he hears something that resonates with him, because it's not until he hears, like, oh, you're gonna call your mom, Freddie? Oh, you can't, your mom's dead. That's what like triggers him, because he's got mom abandonment issues. So he didn't even really do it for the right reasons.
Yeah, it's just the catalyst to get into the moment, but
Yeah.
it's like you could have written that better. So the character of Billy and Shazam are actually disjointed for me. Why does he have all the wisdom of Solomon as Shazam, but he acts like a moron as Shazam? Right? Like when he's a kid, he's much more dark, he's much more gloomy, he's much more serious. But then when he's Shazam, he's this goofball kid who acts way less mature than when he's actually a kid. It should have been tonally consistent and swapped so that you're reflecting the persona that you're actually in. So to me, unfortunately, it feels like two different people.
Yes, I agree. And you didn't see that, like, Freddy is also kind of a goofball. And
Yeah.
Freddy, Shazammed Freddy as Adam Brody, also kind of a goofball. That's very consistent with the character. You're right. Shazam and Billy are less so.
Yeah. The tone is a little bipolar at times. It is light, it is bright, it is fun, and doing the floss as a kid to as an approach to superpowers, that's funny. And then it goes super dark, like the demons biting off the head of the guy, throwing him out the window, people massacred. Like, I don't mind it, I actually liked it, but you gotta pick a lane, right? Like those two, that's like having lobster and Skittles. Those are two very different things you don't have together. And so as you're putting the movie together and as you're flowing, you're like, look, I could have dealt with it if it was really dark, and I could have handled it if it was really light and didn't take itself seriously. But because it flops back and forth on a dime, it's a little disjointed.
And so extremely.
Right.
It's not like it's, they're both kind of near the middle. So it's like, fine. They're both like opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Tonally.
The bad guy and good guy, this is one of your pet peeves. They have the same powers. It's generic bad guy from aisle 4. There's nothing really to him.
Yeah.
I wish there was something more, but there's not. And the last thing I have is that it takes Billy the entire length of the movie to figure out his powers, but it takes the Shazam family 0 time to be good at their powers. One of them's handicapped.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I had.
Okay. So I have some issues with the Shazamily.
Great word.
Thank you. Yes, the Shazamily. Now, I like the inclusion of characters like Darla, Mary Marvel. You know, the Marvel family, comes out in the comics, so that's comics accurate, and I
Sure.
like that. But them all turning into adults feels a little forced at the end, and I get that it was supposed to be, the family coming together, they're all bonding. I think it's a very fun moment when they're like, all right, everyone, say my name, all hands on deck, say my name, Billy. Like, okay, that was
It's funny.
funny. That was
Yeah.
funny. But I also feel like them all becoming adults and having superpowers, despite the things that hold them down in general, kind of takes away from Billy's journey as Shazam.
Yeah.
Like Billy has felt powerless his whole life, abandoned. He doesn't have this sense of belonging. He gets these superpowers. He goes through this journey of like using them selfishly, becoming a hero, learning what family really means and where he fits into this world. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, but also these 6 other kids, they all get to have superpowers and fight demons and don't have to go through any, kind of trials or tribulations to get to the point where they're superheroes. It's like Billy had to kind of earn it, and they just didn't.
Yeah. Again, in hindsight, it sort of feels like they probably didn't know if they were going to make that second one, which they should not have done. That I did see. So they sort of just took, very much Wonder Woman 84, which ironically it only came out a year before it, but you take all the things of the character and you shove them into this movie because you have no expectation that you're going to continue with the character.
Mhm.
Or it's kind of clear you don't know what you're doing, so we just throw spaghetti at the wall and hope that all the deep fans are like, hey, that's the thing. But it doesn't make sense for the story.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I also have that uh, it bounces between light and heavy. I definitely did have that.
Mm-hmm.
What were the doors?
I don't know.
Were those like the multiverse? Like when they're opening all those doors at the Rock of Eternity? Were that
Kind
supposed to
of.
be early references to the multiverse? Because then I think the little like joke cameos they made could have been better. Because this movie
Yeah.
was so winking at the audience, and because it was so much lighter than its predecessors, I think that would have been a fun thing where they open it up and they see like the Teen Titans Go universe, or they open the door and they see the 1970s Shazam show that was
Yeah.
that aired. Like I feel like that would have been funnier than like here's alligators playing poker. It's like, or explain what it's supposed to be then.
And the director, like, you would have thought that maybe James Gunn was directing this. So, from a tonal standpoint, from all the other directors leading up to this, again, it does feel very Guardians, but it didn't know where it was going to go. And I think that's, again, where Marvel sort of stands out amongst the crowd. They have a vision of where they're taking these characters, so you're not seeing them with the expectation that you're only going to see them one time. They know where they're headed. Whereas DC, at least in this iteration of it, was very much like, let's just throw it out there and we're building to Justice League. Like, it doesn't even make sense why Shazam's not in Justice League.
Yeah, I know. That bothers me.
So, I mean, I get it from a timing standpoint. This is 19. Justice League was 2017, and then the release of the Snyder Cut and everything like that. But again, it just feels, particularly because we have the benefit of hindsight, it feels like they didn't really know what the extended life and the shelf life of this character was. So let's just throw some random things in there. It fills space. It's visually compelling, but it doesn't make story sense.
Yeah. Speaking of story sense, Mark Strong is great in anything you put him in.
Flawless.
He is and he's
Flawless.
an excellent villain. He's been in a bunch of comic book movies. You know, he was in the Kingsman movies. He was in Green Lantern. He was the only good thing about Green Lantern.
The only good thing.
But I will say that as good as he was really underdeveloped and he had very shallow motivation, I feel like.
Yeah. Like I said, generic bad guy from aisle 4.
Which is unfortunate because you wasted Mark Strong on another generic bad guy with the same powers as the hero when he could have been really awesome.
But here's an interesting thing that I'd like to take just a second on. Yes, it feels wasted. Yes, he's a great actor. But if you had a lesser actor being the foil, this would be a completely forgettable movie.
Yeah.
So as much as there, and I've been noticing this within a couple films that I've been watching, like, yeah, there are throwaway characters, there are throwaway actors who come into these roles, and we always say the same thing. Oh, they underdeveloped him. Oh, he didn't get to do what he really wanted. But if it wasn't that actor, you wouldn't remember the movie at all. And so for some sake of the argument, they actually do save the movie.
No, that's true.
Just playing devil. I'm playing Vader's advocate here.
No, that's no, that's fair. That's fair. But it just is. I understand your point. It just feels unfortunate that that's the idea behind it. You know.
Sure, and really what your emotion is, and or maybe I'll speak for myself, but I'm sure you agree. What you really want is an actor who can shine not only with their performance but with the part they're handed, and you want to see the full potential of that being developed. If it's not there, you as the audience sort of feel like, I know you're better than what you were given. I wish you could have done that.
Well, that's why we say he's the only good thing in Green Lantern, because look at what he was given.
Yeah.
But he's so memorable to me as Sinestro. It's like, wow, like that's what I visualized Sinestro being. Even if everything else was a mess, that was awesome. So it's
Exactly.
like the same kind of thing, I guess. I have three more things, and one is really only an opinion. It kind of goes along with the villain. Another villain defeated by hubris.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I made fun at Bill. You know, Shazam becomes a bully against the sins, and that's how he defeated him. It's like you would think that these villains would learn, like, listen. Some of these superheroes like to run their mouth.
What can be said?
Yeah, it just feels boring.
I got it.
I also don't like that Shazam uses his name as a weapon. You know, like he says Shazam numerous times to change back and forth and use the lightning strike as a weapon, which I just feel like is. And also, how does he introduce himself ever to anyone? Hi, nice to meet you. My name's Shazam. Oh, crap. I gotta stop meeting people.
My name's Billy.
So it just feels like, all right. Seems like convenient.
Flopping back and forth.
Last thing I have, and this isn't necessarily a bad, it's just my opinion. I thought Zachary Levi did a great job. I think he can be very funny and charming. From the outset, when they first said we're developing a Shazam movie, my initial thought was John Cena. John Cena should have been Shazam. He's very funny. He naturally has that physique. I feel like Zach Levi, now maybe he was in shape for this movie, but a lot of it was the suit. And I feel like it looked like he was wearing a muscle suit sometimes. I think that if you had given John Cena just a more spandexy kind of suit, it would have looked much more natural and still could have been very funny.
I don't know enough about it. Like, I'm not familiar enough with the character to be like, oh, this actor came to mind. I felt like he did fine, but I also feel like I have more of the cultural pulse of most of the fans. Like, didn't really matter who you were putting in there. I didn't even know about the character.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
So I understand your point.
He probably wasn't a big enough character with the average person to matter. But as a fan of as someone who is familiar with him before, I think that John Cena would have been a more fun choice for me.
Yeah.
But that's it on bad. Again, yeah, this was a fun movie. And, I needed to nitpick a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry. My one last thing: the inconsistency of what Shazam stands for. You're you're mismatching gods from different pantheons.
Oh, who cares?
That annoys me. And also, why do you have the wisdom of Solomon? Solomon was never a god. He was just given wisdom by God in the Bible. But everyone else is either god or demigod, because you got Hercules, you got Zeus, you got Achilles, you got Mercury, you know, Roman and Greek, which annoys me. But then you have Solomon. The first one is Solomon, just because there's no god of intellect. So we pick, you know, the wisest man in history, who was Solomon. That just seems like, and that's not the movie's. That's not the movie's fault. That's, you know,
Yeah.
from the source. But it's still like, I just always thought that was stupid.
To quote Chris North, if I'm honest, I don't care.
All right. I mean, I don't care
I
that
mean,
much, but it was, you know,
I
we
see
could
what
have
you're
fixed that a
saying,
little bit.
but given the fact that I didn't even catch it was an acronym until you just pointed it out, I don't think anybody else cared either.
You didn't catch it. There's a whole scene about it when he first.
I know that. I just thought he was listing things. I didn't catch it was an order.
Oh, so when he's
I'm like, okay, he's
wisdom.
going. Well, okay, so to point out to actually validate your point, because he started with Solomon, I didn't think Greek gods. When he went to Hercules and Achilles, then I'm like, okay, so he's going in a direction. And my mind went to, okay, he's just listing all these virtues and aspects of these different characters. I didn't go S-H-A-Z. I didn't do that.
Okay.
It's clearly there, but I didn't catch it.
Well, I also
And
knew
so
that
to me, because it's not Solomon or it's not that god or whatever, to me it didn't even matter because I didn't catch the acronym.
right. Well, so I knew to look for it. You wouldn't
There
have
you go.
known to look for it, so that makes sense. But
Which is this is one of those unique movies where, because I had never seen it until this viewing, you and I have a completely different take on it.
yeah,
That almost never happens because you and I either see these things right away, or you have a rich history and I don't, or something like that. But because I'd never seen it, this one's fun.
listen, I'm not saying it wasn't fun. It was a great time, but I think there are
Yeah.
things that they could have leaned into a little differently.
One of the things that they leaned into as we transition into spiritual stuff, I'll kick it off. One of the things they leaned into was the family aspect, right? We talked about this, that this film is so singularly focused on family. And there's dad issue stuff going on, which, you know, we could have an entire podcast about. But the thing that stood out to me is that the things you say to a child really has an impact on them one way or the other. The verse that came to mind was Ephesians 6:4, which says, "Fathers, do not exacerbate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord." And that comes right after the verse, "Children, obey your parents." In my experience, "Children, obey your parents" is usually the part that's pushed. But there's this follow-up part that I think this
Like a verse taken out of context.
Yeah, but the next verse, the verse 4, is really the other half of it, which we always forget, and I really think that that's the call. And this film really does a great job of not exacerbating your children. Essentially, parents, watch your mouth. Watch what you're saying. Watch how you're saying it, because you can easily push a child one way or the other. Both of us have experiences. We've talked about this multiple times within our friendship, that the smallest thing said to you at the wrong time can set you on a course of how you see yourself, how you see the world, how you see God. And that doesn't mean you can't say hard things. That doesn't even mean you need to not correct kids. In fact, you need to discipline kids. And that's not punish, that's discipline. That's guide and direct. But how you say things and when you say things, why you say things, all of that needs to be with the idea that you are instructing and training them, hopefully in the instruction of the Lord. And so that God can speak to them, and what they see within you is the Father's heart.
I think what's great alongside that too is later, I think it's Paul who says, "Train up a child in the way that he should go." And so that
Yeah.
goes along, yes, children obey your parents, but when you're calling to the parent to, not exacerbate, it's because you're being called to train up a child the way they should go. That doesn't mean bully them into doing what you want. That means
Right.
training them, showing compassion, showing by example. Like those are how you train someone to do things. You don't just command and they automatically do it
Right.
necessarily. So that's really good.
What about you? What'd you find?
Well, I also leaned heavily into the family aspect. Shocker. That was a beautiful message of this movie. And one of the things that stood out to me was that Billy has such an issue with family. He knows nothing but broken family, and even views, a foster family as a broken family. It's like, well, we're not really brother and sister. These aren't really my parents. This isn't really my home. And I feel like, rejecting family, whatever that looks like for you, whether that's blood family or chosen family, rejecting family is what opens you up to darkness, or what can open you up to like darkness or evil. It's so important to surround yourself with people that uplift you and people that love you, people that encourage you and challenge you. And for us, like when you choose to follow Christ, when you choose to make that such an important part of your life, you're God's chosen family. You're the chosen family of Jesus. He calls us, you're now my sons and daughters. Growing up in church culture, I'm sure you've done this before too. You hear people say, "Oh, this is brother so and so and sister so and so." That all stems from the idea that we're, because we're one in Christ, we're family,
Yeah.
and that needs to be. We need to be reminded of that this is a chosen family. Jesus himself had a found family with the 12 disciples. These are 12 people that he ate with and slept with and traveled with and ministered with. These were his best friends. That was his chosen family. John 15:13 is my favorite Bible verse, and it says, greater love has none but that a man would lay down his life for his friends. And I've always equated that to, yes, friends, but also for family, because to me they're one and the same.
Yeah.
And if we're being called to the greatest love, which is the willingness to do anything for the people we call family, we need to act like that more. We're God's chosen family. The people around you are brothers and sisters in Christ. And even the people who may believe differently, those are still family. Those, everyone is made in God's image, which means to me, everyone is a child of God or has the potential to be. And that deserves treating them like you would blood family.
Yeah, everyone is made in God's image, therefore they deserve love, respect, and humanity.
Absolutely.
Um, it then takes it to the next level when you do have that relationship with Jesus, when you are a part of the family of the church, the part of, the bride of Christ. But that call on us is to treat everyone as though they are.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't get to pick and choose. And even though there is a found family, what if the church started treating everybody like they were members of their own congregation? What would that look like?
Yeah. Like you want to talk about, the love of Jesus, especially around Christmas time, goodwill towards men, you know, all that, all the things we like to tout around this time of year that, should carry on through our lives is, goodwill towards people and love and kindness and acceptance for people as if they were all family.
Even if they think Sharknado is a Christmas film.
I feel like the argument could be made there that it is.
No, it cannot. How are we rating this film?
How am I rating this film? I struggled a little bit with the rating because I really have a good time with it. Is it a great movie? No, it's not a great movie. It's lightness when there's dark in film. It's fun. I'm going to go with a bail. It had flaws, it had issues, and I'm not overlooking them, and I don't have such a deep love for it that I can completely ignore those. But it was a good time. and it didn't take itself seriously, and it was good enough that it's a bail. It's an enjoyable watch, and everybody should go watch it at least once around Christmas.
I like it. For
You
me,
like a DC movie? My goodness.
I not just like, I think it's great. I gave it a Keaton.
Wow.
It's fun. I think it's got some deep moments. I think the animation is well done. It lands in the era of the DCEU pretty well. It's emotional. It's overall a good time. It's about family. I mean, how can you go wrong? I think it's a great movie you could watch at Christmas. You can watch it in July if you want to. Doesn't make it a Christmas movie, but I think it's a great movie that everybody should watch. I give it a Keaton.
I love it. I think that is a great rating. I think for me, the bail comes with having known enough history of the comics, and the John Cena issue is annoying for me.
There you go. What do you guys think?
Yes, tell us what you think.
Leave us a comment on all of our platforms. The same comment on every platform. Go to Instagram, say Joey's right. Go to Facebook, say Joey's right. On YouTube, say Joey's right that the Grinch stole Labor Day.
And then delete all those accounts and say what you truly feel, which is this guy's right. Always right. Always knows what he's talking about.
Otherwise, you'll make the naughty list.
They won't make my naughty list. If you're on my side, you're not going to make my naughty list. Listen, I'm not good enough to be Santa and have a naughty list, but I'm ready to close this out. Are you ready to close this out?
Close it. Merry Christmas, boys and girls.
All right, remember, kids, family means the people you choose to love you back. So all hands on deck. Merry Christmas. You know what else I have here? If you don't have this as a part of your winter reading,
you read too much.
This is Batman Noel. Where's the title? There it is. Batman Noel. So good. So good. It's like a Christmas Carol, but with Batman and the Joker.
Really?
It's the art of Brian Azzarello's Joker graphic novel. So the art is incredible. So you should read it.
I should really learn how to read.
You should.
Isn't there an audiobook? Shazam.